Hi, I'm Mick. Today I'd like to talk a bit about the Squarp Hapax. Over the month I've just recorded 3 kind of mini demos just to highlight some of the unique features of it. So it's a hardware sequencer, it's by Squarp Instruments. This is their 3rd hardware instrument, and I'm finding this is definitely a kind of a expansion, iteration, evolution of what they've done in the past. I don't do a full explainer, I'm just kind of zooming in on some cool features. But just high level, what I'd say, what this does over the previous Squarp sequencers is just the layout, the size of it, there's 2 screens, all the knobs. It's just so much easier to use than their previous sequencers. It's probably one of the most intuitive sequencers I've used. Everything's just laid out there for you, and the 2 screens means you can just you've got a high level overview of everything that's going on. Super cool, it's a real interface win, I think, with this. Anyway, so yeah, I'm just going to play the 3 demos now, and I'll see you back at the end. Right, so I've just sequenced a very simple pattern here with just 2 notes. On track 1, I've got a glockenspiel-y music box sound. I'm going to turn this into a chord track, and I'm just going to record that simple chord here. I'm going to set to record now. Alright, so it's just going to do that. Now, as with all of Squarp Instruments, their kind of superpower has always been the effects, the MIDI effects. I'll try and demonstrate. So I'm going to add an arpeggiator on that. Okay, let's humanize it a bit, and let's change the audio scope up down. And now I'm going to add a chance just to give it a bit of random space between the notes. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a scaler at the end, which is going to quantize these notes down to a scale that I want. So I'm going to go for Dorian. And the reason why I did that is because I'm now going to add a randomizer, which is going to increase random notes that are played. And now I'm going to reduce the chance of these random notes being played to 70. So already we've got this kind of generative thing. This is just based off of 1 chord. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an LFO. And I'm going to turn the sync on, but I'm going to slow it right down to 8 bars. Now I'm going to set the destination to rates of the arpeggiator. Now you can see here that the arpeggiator rate is being modulated by the LFO. It's going up and down. And I don't want it to go quite that quick, so I'm just going to set that to 80. Now I'm going to make another LFO, and I'm going to set the destination of that to the octave. So I'm going to, well, let's just see what that looks like. See the octaves running up and down there real quick. So I'm going to first of all slow it down. Let's go 15. But I don't want it to go down like that, so I'm going to set an offset. I'm going to offset it from 50%. And then I'm going to reduce the depth so it doesn't go quite so high. Let's add a bit of delay. So I've got a really interesting pattern here, very generative, and again it's all based off just this 1 chord. Now another cool trick you could do with this is you can set a project transposition track for track 16. I've got that turned on. What that means is when I press a chord here, and this is going to be controlling a polybrute, it's going to harmonise the other tracks, much like how the Oxy One does it. But with these MIDI effects, it creates this kind of great semi-generative but very controlled thing. Let's just play a couple of chords. I want to add the root. Where's that bass root? Now I'm going to turn up that simple 2-note thing. Now listen to what happens to these 2 notes as I move through the chords. Pretty cool. Let's play some transpositions. The last thing I want to show is the BPM tempo elasticity, which is a really crazy feature. I'm just going to run through it quick. So I've got a track here. It's playing a thing on the poly brute. It's got a delay on it, obviously. So I've got a pre-made sequence here that I'm just going to paste. So put that in there. I'm going to press play. And unmute it. So very simple. Now I'm going to paste that onto track 2, which is the same instrument, but I'm going to add an effect where I increase the transposition by 5. I'm going to unmute it. So very simple. So what this BPM elasticity does is that this has a very granular sense of tempo division and multiplication, and it uses a percentage region to do it. So if you want this to run at half the speed of the project tempo, you just set it to 50%. Which is quite a cool way of getting some variation just on its own. And obviously if you want it to run at double speed, 200%. And then you've got every kind of percentage between 50% and 200%. So what's quite cool about this is you can set phasing, which is kind of a Steve Reich kind of early minimalism technique. So if I just set this to 99, just have a listen for a minute to see what happens. Now if I just turn off the delay, it will help make it more clear what's going on. So you can really hear it now. So pretty soon this is now going to shift into kind of a rhythmical, like here. Now you're just generating new rhythms now because it's kind of shifted. The two tracks have shifted away from each other just subtly. And you get this kind of like offset rhythm. And then it's just going to keep shifting away and it's going to kind of go out of time again. So what I find is that when you add a bit of delay, and a bit of drums, everything's mostly anchored to track 1, but you've just got this second track here, this shifting one, and it's just slopping in and out of control, but because everything else is anchored so strongly to, like, you know, the core tempo, your ears kind of make sense of it. Anyway, that's track elasticity. Yeah, I think it's a feature that begs exploration a bit, and I wonder what you could do if you combine that with some of the automation, which I haven't shown here, or some of the kind of MIDI effects to modulate it. If you're interested in the Hapax for yourself, they're up on signalsounds.com. They're quite pricey, but I think a lot of that comes down to, like, the size of it. It's quite a big unit, and just the amount of controls that you've got, the 2 screens and that sort of thing. I think it's the most intuitive sequencer I've used because of the way it's laid out and the kind of generosity of size and controls. But another one to consider is the Oxy One, and I know these two have been compared quite a lot. And they do have an overlap of options. The Oxy One has a lot more kind of generative, real-time generative and alternate sequencing methods like stochastic sequencing and a few other sequencing types, but it does the same kind of, or a similar kind of chord harmonizing transposition, but as you can see, there's less clarity in what you can see and less controls, physical controls that you can use. So I'd say if you've got the desk space for it, this is definitely worth having a look at. And also I'm really curious to see where they go with the updates. Thanks for watching. My name's Mick. I work as a sound designer and a composer in the games industry, and if you want to see more of my stuff, check out the links that are on screen and in the description. Thanks.